Boom. Like pushing down a mountain of gold and knocking down a jade pillar, the blue giant sword in Caswell's hand tore through the void and slashed down at Jason. The golden giant sword in Jason's hand also penetrated the distance of space and came to the front of Caswell in an instant. In the sky, two giant swords, one golden and one blue, each occupied half of the sky, tearing open the sky. In the shocked eyes of all the people in the imperial capital, they collided like meteorites. At this moment, time stopped. Boom. It's like two nuclear bombs colliding with each other. The next moment, under everyone's horrified gaze, an uncontrollable and earth-shaking explosion suddenly exploded in the void. The entire void froze, leaving only a dazzling light. In the violent explosion, the giant ice sword controlled by Caswell cracked and shattered step by step, and then the extremely condensed sword of the world exploded with a bang. A large number of ice shards flew everywhere, and the golden sword controlled by Jason, the giant sword, also cracked all of a sudden, but it did not break. Instead, after smashing the opponent's giant sword of ice, it slashed at Caswell's heart, and the terrifying spiritual power sealed off a space. The entire space was filled with only dull golden light shining, and blue starlight flying all over the sky. In the sky, under Jason's huge golden sword, Caswell seemed to be stunned, his eyes filled with disbelief. "Casper, get out of the way!" Jason roared, trying to disperse the golden sword in his hand to prevent it from falling. Jason didn't want to kill Caswell. Once Caswell, the first genius of the Gira's family, was killed by him, no matter how hard he tried, Loken and Felt would never be able to be together. However, Jason had only comprehended the world of swords for a few short months, and facing an 8th-level senior imperial spiritual master like Caswell, the first holy son of the Holy Land of the Salem Empire, how could Jason hold back before? Under his full blow, the golden giant sword was like splashed water. Jason could not take it back at all, and could only watch as the golden giant sword slashed down on top of Caswell's head. At this moment, all the people in the imperial capital were watching. They all came to my throat all at once. At the moment when the giant sword in Jason's hand was about to hit Caswell. Boom! An unparalleled terror suddenly descended and enveloped the world. In Jason's perception, the whole world seemed to suddenly darken, and then, a figure appeared in front of Caswell like lightning, and then aimed at the golden sword that Jason slashed, stretched out his right hand. This is a crystal clear palm. Once it is stretched out, everything in the world seems to disappear, leaving only this palm, which becomes the core of the world. The palm collided with Jason's golden sword. Pung! Silently annihilated, the golden giant sword that was originally full of cracks in Jason's hand suddenly shattered, the violent metal spiritual elements suddenly dispersed, the space continued to distort, and the figure and the Caswell, protected by the figure, was not harmed at all by this powerful wave of spiritual power. This is it. Jason's eyes suddenly became solemn, looking at the figure in front of Caswell. Holy power, the terrifying coercion that suddenly descended before was definitely the holy power that only the 9th-level holy power could release, and only the 9th-level holy power could block him so easily. Otherwise, even an 8th-level imperial spiritual master, even if his golden sword had been damaged in the previous collision with Caswell's ice sword, would not be able to do so easily. It's just blocked. What appeared in front of Jason was an old man wearing a light gray robe. His face was extremely ordinary, and there was no strong spiritual power fluctuations escaping from his body. He was just like an old man seen everywhere on the street, but as soon as he appeared in the sky, as if he had become the core of this world, causing everyone's eyes to fall on him involuntarily. The Great Elder Samuel is the Great Elder Samuel of the Gira's family. The 9th-level low-level Holy Spirit Master, the Great Elder Samuel, is really terrifying. With one palm, he broke through the golden sword cast by Jason. Great sword. It's unbelievable that Caswell lost before. If it hadn't been for the sudden appearance of Elder Samuel, Caswell would have been in danger just now. Seeing this old man, all the people watching the battle started talking a lot. Some were excited for Samuel's appearance, but most of them were excited for Jason and Caswall. He was shocked by the result of the battle. Caspar, the first holy son of the Holy Land of the Salem Empire, can be said to be the most powerful genius in the empire, actually lost to Jason, the core disciple of the spirit medicine master Tower? Even though the battle between the two did not reach the end, but everyone can see that in the previous duel with the World Sword, Caswall actually lost a move. The endless people in the capital of the Saren Empire could not accept this result. Jason, the core disciple of the spiritual medicine master Tower, is indeed very powerful. In the sky, Elder Samuel looked at Jason with a hint of admiration in his eyes. The spiritual medicine master Tower is indeed worthy of it. It is the top force in the continent and can cultivate you. Such a genius, this battle between you and Caswall ends here. You can be considered as winning 1-1 armistice? Jason glanced at Samuel, who had never fought with him in the first place. Samuel's strength is really amazing, although my previous golden sword had already lost its strength in the collision with Caswall's ice sword, he said. I was injured, but I can't just take it easily. A 9th level Holy Spirit Master is really extraordinary. If I fight with him, even if the 5 elements of spiritual power are at their strongest, the 7th level of the God-destroying killing technique, even if I use all my strength, I have no chance of winning. Jason could fully feel Samuel's powerful strength. However, my current spiritual power is at the 7th level. If I fuse the 5 elements of spiritual power in my body with the strange black power, I can unleash the strongest God's wrath which Samuel may not be able to handle. Jason is still very confident in his ultimate move, God's wrath. If he really does it, he will rely on his own strength to fight to the death. He will take the spiritual potion and reach the level of an 8th level Emperor spiritual master. The God-destroying technique will be 7 times stronger. With the use of force, coupled with the fusion of his 5-element spiritual power and the strange black power, the wrath of God, Jason believes that even if Samuel can defeat him, it will definitely be an extremely tragic victory. Great Elder, wait, the battle is not over yet. At this moment, Caswall rushed out from behind Elder Samuel. His always arrogant eyes were full of unwillingness at this moment. He said coldly to Jason, I admit, before I underestimate you, but don't think that you have won. Ice World is not my strongest move. The boss has the strongest move, which is more powerful than Ice World. Now, let's compete. Caspar, that's enough. Before Caspar could finish speaking, he was suddenly interrupted by Elder Samuel. That's a forbidden move in the family. Once used, it will cause harm to your body. The unbearable trauma will never allow you to act carelessly. Retreat. This battle is over. Great Elder, Caswall looked at Chinmure unwillingly. As a fighting maniac, even when facing the Great Elder of the family, he never gave in. Caswall, it seems you don't even listen to my words? Samuel looked at Caswall coldly. Great Elder, this represents the dignity of the family, and even more, the dignity of the Empire. Caswall showed no sign of weakness. Represents the dignity of the Empire. Samuel looked at the stubborn Caswall and smiled, did you know? The Jason in front of you from the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower is only a 7th level Senior Imperial Spiritualist, but you are an 8th level Senior Imperial Spiritualist. Even if you can really defeat him, what dignity do you have? What, in the sky? Caswall was stunned for a moment, a 7th level Senior Imperial Spiritual Master. But he just clearly released the elemental barrier, and Caswall felt that his mind was in chaos, and with his strength at the level of an 8th level Senior Imperial Spiritualist, he could naturally feel that the aura normally exuded from Jason's body was only the 7th level advanced spiritual power. However, Caswall did not transfer Jason to a 7th level Senior Emperor Spiritualist. Thinking in terms of level, but just thinking that Jason is hiding his own aura. The strength shown by Jason is really too strong. It is difficult for people to regard him as a 7th level Imperial Spiritual Master. Moreover, Jason had previously released an elemental barrier unique to 8th level Imperial spiritual masters during the battle. Even those nobles who participated in the knighthood of Lingwu Palace and listened to Jason's own words about his rank, all doubted Jason's true rank, let alone those who had not gone to Lingwu Palace and were completely unaware. Caswall. Okay, let's end this battle today. Samuel said indifferently, and then looked at Jason. Listen to Blanchett? Do you want to see it? In the sky, Jason nodded. Let's go. Samuel said in his mouth, and then flew directly to the mansion below. Jason immediately followed him and flew down together. Only Caswall was left in the sky in despair. A moment later, and then they fall together. Master. Loken stood in the Gura's family's mansion. When he saw Jason flying down, he rushed forward excitedly. Master Jason, Tyre has always been very bellicose, and he actually got into a fight with you today. As a father, I'm really sorry, and please don't worry about it, Master Jason. Fortunately, Master Jason is strong and not injured, otherwise the boss will be a sinner. Chief Blanchett, who had gone to inform Samuel earlier, also came out at this time, with a sincere apology on his face. Jason smiled. He knew that Blanchett was ostensibly apologizing for the fight between the two, but in fact, he was apologizing for not stopping it. With Blanchett's 8th level peak strength, he didn't notice when Jason and Caswall were fighting in the living room at first. This was normal, but by the time both of them flew into the sky, he should have noticed it long ago, but he did not come out to stop him. He also wanted to see the comparison in strength between Jason and Caswall. After the battle with Caswall, Jason's status in the heart of the Blanchett clan became even more profound. Originally, the 24-year-old 7th level elixir master could already be called the most genius among the younger generation of elixir masters in the mainland. However, Jason was also able to compete with his son Caswall in terms of strength. Well, the first holy son of the Holy Land of the Empire fought like that, and was even slightly better. This is shockingly terrifying. He is such a genius in all aspects. The sum of the two is definitely not as simple as 1 + 1. The key is that he is still so young. No one knows what he will grow into in the future. Such a genius needs to be treated well even if the Gura's family is the first family in the Salem Empire. The main living room of the Gura's family was in a mess during the battle between Jason and Caswall. Chief Blanchett immediately took Jason to a side hall. In the side hall, Elder Samuel, Chief Blanchett, Caswall, Jason, and Loken sat down one by one in order of guest of honor. The beautiful maid, who was swinging her graceful waist, served the fragrant tea and then left respectfully. Jason's heart, Elder Samuel looked at Jason with wonder on his face. You are truly worthy of being a core disciple of the spiritual medicine master tower, one of the twin towers on the mainland. Not only are his attainments in spiritual medicine so amazing, but also in terms of strength, is also so outstanding. Even a 7th level senior emperor spiritual master can be slightly better than Caswall, an 8th level senior emperor spiritual master. The twin towers are worthy of being the holy place for the strong men in the mainland. Such talent is really rare. Elder Samuel is ridiculous, Jason said with a smile, feeling slightly relieved. When he heard from Chief Blanchett that Elder Samuel was firmly opposed to Loken and felt, Jason was afraid that Elder Samuel would have a bad attitude towards him, and even be disgusted with him. But whether it was the previous action to prevent him from fighting Caswall or the current conversation with him, he was all friendly and pleasant. This made Jason, who was originally worried about Loken, feel a little relieved. At least the other party's attitude was good. Things about Loken and Felt were a little easier to talk about. Jason, listen to what Blanchett said. Are you looking for me today because of the matter of Loken being Felt? Elder Samuel said directly. Yes. Jason stood up. Elder Samuel, this is my disciple, Loken. Besides, Loken also stood up hurriedly and came behind Jason. Elder Samuel, my disciple Loken and your noble family Falut, the two of them fell in love with each other when they were in Rainbow City. They belong, but they were stopped by your family. I inquired in every possible way, and finally found out that it was you, Elder Samuel, who stopped the two of them. Elder Samuel, forgive me for saying one more thing. Although my disciple Loken does not come from a famous family, nor is he a relative of the emperor, he has excellent talents in his cultivation. Now he only has 2 disciples. At the age of 13, he became a 7th-level senior imperial spiritual master. I really want to know, Great Elder, why you stopped the 2 of them. Jason spoke straight to the point, looking at Elder Samuel. On the side, Loken also raised his head and listened carefully. He wanted to know why. Samuel did not answer Jason's question, but his eyes fell on Luoquan. Are you Luoquan? Yes. Loquan bowed and responded. You do have the courage to come to see me. Over the years, you have been pestering my Gur's family, and I have not cared about it. Now, you have come to me. Elder Samuel looked at Loken in front of him, said calmly, aren't you afraid of angering me and killing you? You have to know that although you are the Count of the Empire, if I kill you, even His Majesty Peter will not say anything. With the status and strength of the great Elder Samuel, it would be difficult for His Majesty Peter to punish Samuel if he killed Loken directly. After all, the great Elder Samuel is the elder of the Holy Land of the Empire and the oldest member of the first family in the Empire. A powerful figure in the Reese family and one of the top strong men in the Empire. No matter how good Loken is, he is only a genius. There is still a huge distance between genius and strong man. Afraid? Loquan said respectfully, when I believe, Great Elder, you will never kill me. If you wanted to kill me, you would have killed me long ago. Moreover, Falut and I truly love each other. How could I do it for her? I am afraid of death. No matter what, I will try my best to work hard and fight for it. Even if there is a mountain of swords and a sea of fire ahead, I will get through it. Loken's eyes were firm and full of sincerity. What a true love. Elder Samuel nodded, and then looked at Jason. Jason, I think Loken's performance in the past 2 years is in my eyes. There is indeed a special reason why I refused him to be with Falut. However, today, for your sake and for Loken's persistence over the past 2 years, I will give him a chance. For my sake? Give Loken a chance? Jason couldn't help but be stunned. What does Elder Samuel mean? Although he is powerful, he is not so strong that Samuel, a 9th-level Holy Spirit Master, can directly give him face. After all, although I can actually prepare 8th-level Imperial elixirs, as far as the outside world knows, I am only a 7th-level high-level elixir master. There are also some 7th-level high-level elixir masters in the Imperial Academy of Elixirs. You need to know, Chief Blanchett had a quarrel with Elder Samuel about Felt, but they failed to change Elder Samuel's mind. Now that he came, Elder Samuel said that because of his own face, he would give Loken a chance, which made Jason a little unreasonable. However, no matter what Samuel's words mean, as long as he is willing to give Loken a chance, that's fine. Jason thought to himself. Please also ask Elder Samuel to express his feelings, Loken said respectfully from the side. It's very simple. Elder Samuel smiled. Loken, if you want to marry Falut, you only need to meet the 2 conditions of Argura's family. The first one, 3 years. Argura's family will give you 3 years. During these 3 years, Falut will have been practicing in the family's forbidden area. The Gura's family can guarantee that they will not agree to the marriage proposal from any force in the Empire. What you need to do is alive. What? Said Elder Samuel. Loken couldn't help but was stunned. When Samuel mentioned the conditions, he thought what Elder Samuel would mention. Difficult conditions. I didn't expect to keep myself alive within 3 years. What kind of condition is this? Not only Loken, but Jason, Chief Blanchett and Caswall were also stunned. Don't be surprised, you heard me right. Samuel stared at Luo Yuan in front of him. To live, this is the first condition Argura's family gives you. The second condition is also 3 years. On the basis of being alive, you must advance to the 8th level of the Imperial Spiritual Master. As for what level the 8th level is, I don't care, but your strength must reach the 8th level of the Senior Imperial Spiritual Master. At this level, only a truly strong person can marry a child of Argur's family. I only have these 2 conditions. As long as you can meet them by then, I will no longer stand in the way of things between you and Falut. Phew. Samuel stood up directly. Jason, Loken, if you have nothing to do, I will go back first. Blanchett, you stay with them too. After that, Samuel turned around and prepared to leave. Elder Samuel, I want to see Falut. Loken spoke hurriedly. Samuel turned to look at him. Falut is currently practicing in the family's forbidden area. Come back after 3 years when the conditions are met. Remember, don't come to me Gurs all the time if you have nothing to do. The family has been talking for 3 years, but if the conditions are not met, the boss will not let you see her. If you piss me off, don't force me to change my mind. Oh. Elder Samuel took 1 step forward and disappeared into the side hall, leaving only the 4 Jasons who were in a daze. Master Jason, this is the personality of the Elder, said the Blanchett clan's long face. He looked at Jason apologetically, and then there was a trace of joy in his eyes, but as a 9th level low-level Holy Spirit Master, he is true to his word. As long as Luoquan meets these 2 conditions by then, the Great Elder will definitely practice what he says. Blanchett vowed to speak out, and at the same time, his Zhong is also full of doubts. At first, he negotiated with the Great Elder for a long time over the matter of Loken and Felt, and even had a dispute, but the Great Elder did not give in. But now in front of Jason and Loken, the Great Elder's attitude changed. Such a huge change made Blanchett feel extremely puzzled. Chief Blanchett did not believe what Elder Samuel said for Jason's sake. No matter how talented Jason was, he was also a disciple of the Elixir Pagoda, and the ancient member of the first family of the Salem Empire. The Lacey family had no connection at all, and it was impossible for Elder Samuel to change his decision easily just for the sake of Jason's face. Perhaps it was Narakan's talent that impressed Elder Samuel. Chief Blanchett thought secretly in his heart. In the hall, Jason and Loken looked at each other. Isn't it just 3 years? Loken clenched his fists. I have survived these 2 years. In 3 years, what are you afraid of? As for the Emperor Spiritual Master who has advanced to the 8th level. Luo Kuan's eyes were full of self-confidence. Now he has reached the 7th level Senior Emperor Spiritual Master. For ordinary geniuses, it takes 3 years to go from 7 to 7 levels. It may be difficult to advance from a high level to a low level to an 8th level, but for him, it is not that difficult. Compared with the previous pain, Luo Kuan's heart at this moment was full of persistence and determination. Because in the past, the road ahead was dark, but now, we are looking forward to hope. Jason is in a good mood after solving the Loken matter. In fact, before coming, Jason had already made various preparations. No matter what conditions the Elder Samuel put forward, even if he had to exhaust his own materials to prepare some 8th level Emperor level spirits for Samuel, Jason recognized the potion, but he didn't expect that the whole incident didn't require him to take action at all. It was completed smoothly, making Jason couldn't help but let out a long breath. Compared to Jason's relaxation, Luo Kuan's heart was full of excitement and excitement. 3 years was nothing to him. The thought that he would be able to stay with Falut in 3 years made him full of motivation to practice. Master Jason, Loken, it's getting late now, and we haven't eaten yet. How about having dinner with Argura's family? On the side, Chief Blanchett also smiled and warmly invited. As Felt's uncle, Blanchett also fervently hopes that her niece can be with the person she likes. After all, Felt is her eldest brother's daughter. When he thinks of his eldest brother, Patriarch Blanchett feels endless emotion in his heart. Since Chief Blanchett is so enthusiastic, then Loken and I would rather be respectful than obey. After all, in 3 years, you will be Loken's elder, and Lokun will still toast to you by then." Jason laughed. Blanchett was stunned for a moment, and then laughed heartily. "Haha, yes, yes, Lokun, you have to practice hard, don't let the people who care about you down, and most importantly, don't let Falut is disappointed." In the side hall, Lokun nodded firmly. "Come on, Master Jason, let's go to the banquet hall." Blanchett greeted enthusiastically, leading Jason and the others towards the banquet hall where they were dining. And while Jason and the others were drinking and mingling in the banquet hall, at this moment on the main peak of the Imperial Holy Land, nearly 100 miles away from the Imperial capital, a stream of light quickly fell down. This is the top of the main peak of the Holy Land. It is shrouded in clouds and mist all year round. The rich spiritual energy is like a tide, constantly surging and rolling on the top of the peak, giving people an unbearable shock. In the Holy Land, the main peak represents status. Xingyun City, where the Holy Sons live and communicate, is located on the mountainside of the main peak. However, only the elders of the Holy Land can live on this peak. The stream of light quickly converged on a stone platform at the top of the mountain. When the stream of light dispersed, a ruddy face was immediately revealed. It was none other than Elder Samuel, who had been talking to Jason in the Gura's family mansion before. After Elder Samuel brought the peak, he walked up a stone staircase on the side without any hesitation. This was an extremely long stone staircase. With the strength of Elder Samuel's 9th level low-level Holy Spirit Master, he could easily fly up it, but he walked up it with great respect. After a while, Elder Samuel arrived at the end of the stone staircase. What appeared in front of him was a dark stone door. "Supreme Elder, I have fulfilled the 2 conditions you asked me to give to Nalaquin." In front of the stone gate, Samuel spoke respectfully. He, the great elder of the Gura's family, the elder of the Holy Land of the Empire, and a low-level 9th level Holy Spirit Master, was so respectful to the people in this stone gate. If others saw it, they would definitely find it hard to believe. "Samuel, you did a good job." An indifferent voice sounded. Hearing this voice, Samuel's expression became even more respectful. "Supreme Elder, I have seen Jason. He is indeed only a 7th level Senior Imperial Spiritual Master. His strength is also extremely powerful. He performed the magic in Caswall after the Ice World, he can still be slightly better. It is unbelievable. If Caswall wants to defeat him, it will be difficult to win unless he uses the family's forbidden moves." Haha. In the stone gate, an old and indifferent voice laughed. "Then Jason is indeed an anomaly." Less than 2 years after joining the Elixir Master Tower, he defeated Edmez, who was previously ranked 2nd in this Elixir ranking competition. Moreover, he defeated Edmez. At that time, he was not using the World of Swords. Caswall's defeat to him was not unjust. "So that's it." Samuel couldn't help but nodded. It turned out that Jason was also the most accomplished in the Alchemist Tower. The existence actually made Samuel breathe a sigh of relief. If a core disciple from the Spirit Medicine Master Tower could defeat Caswall, that would be too exaggerated. "Samuel, how is Felt doing now?" The indifferent voice sounded again. "Supreme Elder, Falut is currently practicing hard in the family's forbidden area. I also told her that if she reaches the 8th level of the low-level Emperor Spiritual Master within 3 years, I will not care about the matter between her and Luo Kuan. Now she is in seclusion every day and is making rapid progress. Although she started late and is now only a 7th level low-level Imperial Spiritual Master, I believe that with the help of her family, she can advance to the 8th level Imperial Spiritual Master within 3 years, even though it is very difficult. It's big, but it's not hopeless," Samuel said respectfully. "Well, Samuel, you did a good job on this matter. Well, if nothing happens, you can go back," the Supreme Elder said indifferently. Samuel hurriedly said, "Supreme Elder, I really want to know why you asked me to prevent her from being with Narakan in the first place, and now you asked me to give him these 2 conditions." Samuel was very puzzled. It was actually the Supreme Elder who prevented Loken and Fellet from getting together. Later, after Loken was knighted today, the Supreme Elder suddenly sent a message to him, asking him to give Loken these two conditions made Samuel very confused. There was silence in the stone door for a moment, and a moment later an indifferent voice sounded again. Samuel, on the surface it seems calm now, but in fact there are undercurrents surging, and all the major forces are ready to move. A catastrophe is about to come to the continent, and the continent is facing a reshuffle. Although Argura's family is the first family in the empire, but if you want to survive this catastrophe, it's difficult, difficult, difficult. The indifferent voice said 3 words difficult in a row, which made Samuel's heart shake. He seemed to feel this feeling as if he was ascending to heaven. Normally difficult. If we, the Gers family, want to survive this catastrophe, we must not waste any strength or take any wrong step. I feel that this Jason will be the key to this catastrophe, but I can't see the future clearly. It's full of fog and I can't see anything. What makes me make changes is Caswell's future. Originally, in my calculations, Caswell's future is dark. I narrowly escaped death, so I asked you to take Philip back and train her. But a few days ago, after Jason appeared, I actually saw a glimmer of light and vitality in Caswell's originally dark future, and this light and vitality are closely related to Jason. That's why I made such a decision. The Supreme Elder said indifferently. The road ahead for Caswell is dark? A catastrophe on the continent? Samuel murmured, with shock on his face. Others don't know, but he knows that the Supreme Elder of the family is a spiritual master with extremely special attributes. The skills he cultivates are even more powerful and can calculate a person's fate. What he calls the road ahead for Wall is dark, which means that Caswell is very likely to fall in the near future. As the most talented being of this generation, Caswell is the next heir of the family, so how can Samuel not be shocked? Okay, Samuel, you don't have to think so much. The indifferent voice of the Supreme Elder sounded again, train Philip well and practice hard. Only with absolute strength can the family survive this catastrophe. To avoid being destroyed, or even go further. Okay, step back, remember, don't tell anyone what I told you. Yes. Samuel nodded respectfully. Supreme Elder, Samuel excuses himself. Samuel immediately walked down the steps he had come up before, and then turned into a stream of light again, flying towards the family mansion in the imperial capital. Chief Blanchett, there is no need to send it off again. At the entrance of the Gers family mansion, Jason and Loken, who had had a banquet, said goodbye to Chief Blanchett. Haha, well go, Master Jason. Chief Blanchett smiled with a smile on his face and looked at Loken aside. Loken, you have to practice hard, I'm waiting for your good news. Chief Blanchett, please rest assured. Loken was full of confidence. Under the watch of Patriarch Blanchett, Jason and Loken gradually moved away. Jason, are you really just a 7th level high-level Imperial Spiritual Master? Looking at Jason's disappearing figure, Caswell finally couldn't help shouting and asking behind Chief Blanchett. Until now, he still couldn't believe Jason's level. It's true. Jason's voice came from the distance. Caswell looked a little stunned. If he was full of fighting spirit towards Jason at the beginning, then after learning about Jason's level, all he felt was endless loss. Although he was very confident in his family's forbidden moves, so what? He is an 8th level high-level Imperial Spiritualist, but Jason is only a 7th level high-level Imperial Spiritualist. As Elder Samuel said, even if he defeated Jason, he would not have the slightest dignity at all. And at the previous dinner table, Caswell also asked Jason about Jason's ranking in the Alchemist Tower. When he learned that Jason was only ranked 11th in this elixir list competition in the Alchemist Tower, Caswell was completely shocked. He, the number 1 holy son in the Empire, was not as good as a core disciple who ranked 11th in the Alchemist Tower, which shocked him very much. How did he know that although Jason was ranked 11th, in terms of real strength, except for Blue Moon Goosen, Jason was not sure. Even Cassinus, who was currently ranked second, Jason was fully confident in defeating him. The 11th level, 7th level high-ranking Imperial Spirit Master? At the door of the mansion, a trace of determination suddenly flashed in Caswell's eyes. In almost a year, the genius test of all the major forces in the mainland will begin. Lien, when the time comes, even if I don't use forbidden moves, I will definitely defeat you. Caswell gritted his teeth, his heart full of determination. He has decided to spend the remaining year in seclusion and practice crazily. On the way back, Master Jason and Loken were in a good mood, talking and laughing. In the past 2 years, because of Felt's incident, Loken's whole person has become extremely serious and low-pitched, giving people a feeling that he should not be approached by strangers. He was like a lone wolf in the wilderness. He couldn't find his direction and could only keep moving forward. In the dark night, he curled up and licked his wounds. He looked extremely lonely. But now, with Jason's help, Loken has returned to his former innocent appearance again. The smile on Luoquan's face was so bright that he seemed to have seen the scene where he and Falut were getting married. Master, you have so much face. Even people like Elder Samuel of the Guras family have to give you face. Loken looked at Jason with admiration. Give me face? Jason smiled, then frowned and said, honestly, I still don't know how Elder Samuel could have such a change, and agree to you and Faith so easily. What happened with Ruth and the 2 conditions he made for you are a bit too weird. The second one is nothing, but the first one is too outrageous to keep you alive for 3 years. Jason still doesn't understand. It was very puzzling, because the attitude of the great Elder Samuel was so strange. Jason had also doubted the first condition, whether the great elder would send someone to kill Loken, and then he said that he should be allowed to live within 3 years. It's impossible to think about it. With the strength of Elder Samuel, it would be too easy to kill Loken. If he really had this idea, he would have done it long ago. There was no need to give him a 3-year period or anything. Master, do you think this great elder will default on his debt? Loken said worriedly after hearing what Jason said. Defiant? Jason smiled. With the great elder's identity and status, it should be impossible for him to default on his debt. Moreover, even if he defaults on his debt in 3 years, it will be nothing. Don't worry, Luo-kun. When the time comes, even if the master wants to steal the bride, I'll get that felt back for you too. Jason said firmly. 3 years later, Jason didn't know how far he would grow. Hearing Jason's words, Loken couldn't help but be startled. He turned to look at Jason's resolute figure, like a mountain, always shielding him from wind and rain. Loken's nose couldn't help but feel sore. But he couldn't say anything, but his eyes were moist. The Guras family is the #1 family in the Salem Empire. What it means to go to the Guras family to snatch a relative, Luoquan feels terrible when he thinks about it. Master, you are so kind to Luoquan. Luoquan never knows how to repay your kindness in this life. Luoquan murmured in his heart. I can't cause any more trouble to Master. His fists were clenched tightly, and his nails were deeply embedded in his palms. He didn't even realize it. 3 years, and there are still 3 years left. I want to grow up to the level of anyone. It cannot be ignored. Luoquan secretly swore in his heart. In the following days, Jason and Loken stayed in the mansion given to him by His Majesty Peter to practice. When he had nothing to do, Jason would also discuss some things related to elixirs with Master Simons, Master Ballandain, President Curson and others. Of course, Prince Tyeria would occasionally come to see Jason and take him around the imperial capital, and Jason would naturally not refuse. I remember that when Prince Tyeria met Jason for the first time later that day, he shouted that Jason was so uninteresting that he even defeated Casper, the first son of the Empire, which made him very embarrassed as a prince. Although the battle between Jason and Caswell was not made public, many people in the entire imperial capital saw it, especially Jason's last sword, which broke Caswell's giant ice sword. If it hadn't been for the appearance of Elder Samuel Caswall, the Empire's first holy son would have been seriously injured. This duel caused an uproar in the entire imperial capital, and its influence was far greater than the battle between Loken and Cluny. However, this matter soon disappeared. After all, Caswall is the first holy son of the Salem Empire, and Jason is the core disciple of the Elixir Master Tower. The first holy son of his motherland was the core disciples of other forces were defeated. How could the people of the imperial capital publicize such a thing? However, although this matter calmed down, the carriages at the entrance of Earl Loken's mansion were one after another. It was very busy and lively. They were all nobles from the imperial capital. These people came to visit Jason and Loken. Naturally, Jason and Loken didn't bother to pay attention to these people. They just arranged for servants to receive them and then sent them out of the mansion. Just like that, a month passed in the blink of an eye. During this month, both Jason and Luo Kuan practiced hard. Jason was promoted to the 7th level Senior Imperial Spiritual Master after absorbing the Earth Spirit beads. However, he was practicing the Spirit God art. It requires a lot of energy. During more than half a year of hard training, Jason finally absorbed enough spiritual power and cultivated the 7th level advanced spiritual power in his body. And Luoquan, who took the 7th level high-level Wood Emperor potion given by Jason, reached the top of the 7th level advanced level the next day, but there were still some potions that had not been fully absorbed. In this month of practice, he has thoroughly cultivated the 7th level advanced spiritual power in his body. Both the master and the disciple are only one step away from being an 8th level imperial spiritual master. They have nothing to pursue in terms of spiritual energy. The next thing Jason and Luo Kuan need to do is to understand the law. On the mainland, there are actually not many high-level 7th level imperial spiritual masters. Even some low-end 7th level high-level imperial spiritual masters can spend decades cultivating the 7th level high-level spiritual power in their bodies to the level of, and the reason why they were unable to advance to the 8th level of Emperor Spiritual Master was because they were stuck in understanding the law. The law of elements is an elusive thing. Its realization requires a unique opportunity. It cannot be mastered by simple practice. Some people are stuck, and they may not realize it at some time. And then advanced, but some people, even if they practice for a lifetime, will not be able to touch this opportunity. However, Jason is different from Luo Kuan. The most important thing for an 8th level Emperor Spiritual Master is to understand the elemental enchantment. Jason, who has the Golden Spirit Bead, has long been able to cast the Golden Elemental enchantment. In terms of understanding the laws of the Golden Element, being able to use the World of Swords, he has also reached an extremely deep level. What he lacks is the understanding of other laws. With the Golden Element barrier as the foundation, Jason believed that it was not out of reach for him to advance to the 8th level of the Imperial Spiritual Master. Not to mention Lokuan, who has the body of a wood spirit. His physique and the speed at which he can comprehend the laws are far higher than ordinary spiritual masters. In addition, his own talent is not weak. It is very likely that he can advance to the 8th level. The level of Emperor Spiritual Master was still before Jason. When Jason and Loken cultivated their 7th level advanced spiritual power to the extreme, it was time for the two of them to leave the imperial capital. On this day, under the farewell of Prince Tyuria, President Coulson, Master Ballandain, Master Zymans, and others, Jason and Loken left the south gate of the imperial capital and headed towards Chi'er. The province flies away. Now, 2 months have passed since Jason left the Rondo province. Considering that he will hold an auction of royal elixirs in the Rondo province in a month, Jason decided to end the auction first. Then take Loken to the territory of chaos. In the intervening month, Luoquan was asked to return to Rainbow City to meet his father Kester and the others. After all, Luoquan had been staying in the imperial capital for the past 2 years and had not been back for 2 full years. When Jason and Loken went to Chi'er province, to the north of the Stern continent was the boundless North Sea. In the northern waters of the North Sea, there was an Iceland, also known as the Arctic ice sheet. The area of Iceland is not large, roughly equivalent to the area of the northwest countries. However, except for some powerful spiritual beasts, there are indeed very few humans in the entire Arctic ice field. The ground of the Arctic ice field is made of ice, and it is very hard. In the northernmost part of Iceland, there are endless stretches of icebergs. Here, the temperature day and night is below -50 degrees. At the coldest time it is close to -100 degrees. Ordinary people cannot survive here at all, even some powerful people. Ice spiritual masters may not be able to withstand such a cold climate. However, this harsh and peaceful environment allows some potential cultivators to live here. Hoo-hoo, the cold wind blew on the iceberg like a knife, and even ice chips were blown away. The extreme low temperature all year round makes the ice much harder than steel. Under an iceberg tens of thousands of meters high, two strong men were fighting at high speed. One of them was a middle-aged man with long blue hair, while his opponent was a man with short green hair, a slender figure, and well-developed muscles. Cold man. Terrifying coercion continued to radiate from these two people. The battle between the two continued to tear open space cracks. Some of the surrounding ice layers continued to shatter. It was obvious that both of them were 8th level. The powerful Emperor Spirit Master. However, the speed, attack and defense of the two are extremely similar, and neither can do anything to the other. Peter, I know your strength. If it's still the same as before, you will definitely lose today, because I recently learned a new and stronger move. The middle-aged man with long blue hair looked at the other person, said coldly. Definitely losing? Huh, Dello, it just so happens that I have made progress in understanding the laws recently. Let's see who is better. The cold man snorted. Okay. Come on. The two of them separated, the tyrannical spiritual power suddenly dispersed from them, and the amazing ice laws fell from the sky. The two faced each other from a distance, constantly condensing their spiritual power, trying to release the most powerful energy. A strong move. At this moment, a sudden change occurred. Boom. A terrifying coercion instantly descended from the sky and descended on this world. The ice laws all over the sky were like sky curtains, falling from the sky. The ice spiritual elements in the entire world became violent at this moment, rushing towards an iceberg not far away from the two people. What's going on? What happened? The two people who were fighting before suddenly showed panic on their faces and looked at the mountain not far away. In their perception, the ice spiritual elements all over the place were completely violent and out of control. With their 8th level senior emperor spiritual master level strength, they were unable to control the ice spiritual elements in the air. This made them, I felt, extremely frightened. Kakaka, in the horrified eyes of the two people, cracks suddenly appeared on the surface of the iceberg not far away, and these cracks were still spreading, and quickly, they were all over the place. The entire iceberg. Astonishingly, the ice elemental spiritual power, like the water of the sea pouring from the sky, continuously washed into the iceberg, as if there was an ancient beast hidden in it, endlessly swallowing the endless ice between heaven and earth. System elements. The rivers of elements formed a splendid Milky Way in the sky, transforming into the extremely beautiful aurora of laws. The cracked iceberg continued to tremble and shake. Finally, boom, the entire iceberg suddenly exploded. Huge ice cubes and ice shards flew everywhere, hitting the surrounding icebergs with terrifying force. Break out huge holes in the ice, which is much harder than steel. In the sky full of ice and snow, a figure rose slowly from the depths of the broken iceberg. Endless ice spiritual power poured into his body, exuding a terrifying pressure that made people unable to resist at all. This is, in mid-air, the two Icelandic experts, the 8th level senior emperor spirit master, looked at each other in horror, and then flee. Whoosh! Whoosh! The two people immediately turned into two. A stream of light flew wildly towards the outskirts of Iceland. But before they could fly far away, there was a sudden buzz. An invisible coercion dropped from the sky and spread directly to cover an area of 1,000 meters, forming a huge spherical light blue cover, wrapping both of them in it. Suddenly, the space around the two people was restrained, and an astonishing force continuously pressed and restrained the two people from all directions. In an instant, the two people were like fish rising from the water to the land, and it was difficult to move for a while. Both men looked up to the sky in fear. A muscular middle-aged man was standing in the air with his upper body exposed. He stood there as if he were the core of the entire world, putting endless pressure on these two 8th-level senior Emperor Spirit Masters. Field, this is a realm that only 9th-level Holy Spirit Masters can perform. The two looked at each other, their hearts filled with horror. When did this Arctic ice field have such a powerful 9th-level Holy Spirit Master? Sir. The middle-aged man with long blue hair immediately bowed respectfully. My name is Deluo. I didn't know that you were cultivating here. I disturbed you. Please forgive me. He was in the opponent's field. In this area, there are only 10 ice elements that can be controlled. It is too easy to kill the opponent with the strength of the 9th-level Holy Spirit Master. Sir, my name is Peter. I have disturbed your cultivation. Please forgive me. The cold man also bowed immediately. With their strength, they are considered to be the top beings in the Arctic ice field. They are arrogant, but they both know when to be arrogant and when to be respectful. It is obvious that the person who appears now is a being that they cannot match. The shirtless middle-aged man looked at the two of them and said, "What time is it now, when?" The two looked at each other, and the blue-haired middle-aged man immediately said respectfully, "Sir, it is March 10th, 2037 in the spiritual calendar." 2037 in the spiritual calendar? The middle-aged man nodded. Okay, let's go. The invisible pressure covering the two people, the child dissipated, and the two people who had previously found it difficult to breathe suddenly felt relieved. Thank you, sir. The two of them looked at each other, immediately bowed, and then instantly turned into two streams of light and disappeared into the sky. Is it 2037 in the spiritual calendar? It's only been 6 years since the 10-year appointment. I wonder how Jason is doing now. Is everyone okay? In the sky, a middle-aged man murmured to himself, looking at him with sharp eyes. To the south of the Arctic ice sheet. Stern continent, Ice Emperor Wayne, am here. No, it should be Ice Saint Wayne. Immediately, Wayne's figure flashed and disappeared without a trace. Rondo Province, Yuling City, Rainbow Tower President's Office. President Jason, tomorrow is the auction. There are too many people this time. Although Lord Iolos and others have promised to maintain order for us, I am afraid that some situations will inevitably arise by then. Lures, Darrot and Alberta, the 3 directors of the Alchemist Tower, were standing respectfully in the office, looking at Jason on the chair. It is now April 9th, and a full month has passed since Jason left the Imperial capital. Jason left the Imperial capital on March 7th. Along the way, he and Loken flew at full speed. It only took a few days to return to Chi'er Province. Deba stayed at Deba's mansion for 2 days, and then returned to Rainbow City. As for what happened in the Imperial capital, the Kester clan leader in Rainbow City also knew about it, because as early as when His Majesty Peter bestowed the Viscount title on the Kester clan leader and appointed him as the Lord of Rainbow City, someone told the news about the Imperial capital. Got him. Now that he saw Jason and Loken, Kester was extremely excited. Loken has not been home for 2 years. Naturally, he needs to stay longer this time. Jason stayed with him for nearly 20 days, and it was not until early April that he set off to return to London. Many provinces. In the 3 months since Jason left, the Rainbow Tower has developed rapidly and has become the largest force in the province of Toronto. However, the 3 rulers all followed the development plan set by Jason. Instead of blindly expanding the territory, the sale of elixirs continued to penetrate into other provinces. With the expansion of the Rainbow Tower, news about the Imperial Elixir Auction Conference was also transmitted through various channels, and even spread to many nearby provinces, including the entire southern province of the Salem Empire. In many provinces of the Salem Empire, large and small auctions often occur. Even auctions that only auction elixirs, there are occasionally some small-scale private ones, but most of the elixirs auctioned are some. A special 6th-level elixir, but the news of the Rainbow Tower simply auctioning an Imperial-level elixir shocked everyone and attracted countless attention. In the Salem Empire, the number 1 elixir master in a normal province is usually only a 6th-level senior elixir master, while top provinces in the empire like the Rondo province have only the most powerful elixir master. He is just a 7th-level low-level elixir master like Frank of the Bolding family. The 7th-level Emperor-level Wu potion, what does this mean? It is well known that as long as there is such a bottle of elixir, a second-rate force can be transformed into a first-rate force in one fell swoop, and some first-rate forces can be qualified to climb to the top. Usually, if families from major provinces want to obtain 7th-level Imperial elixirs, they can only go to the Imperial capital, participate in some large-scale auctions in the Imperial capital, and compete for these Imperial elixirs from the major forces in the Empire. And what is usually fought over are only some relatively common Imperial-level elixirs, which are only 7th-level low-grade, or 7th-level mid-grade. As for the 7th-order high-grade, only some of the top families in the Empire can compete, even if powers like the governors of various provinces can only hope for the medicine and psi, it is simply beyond their reach. In addition to these ways, unless certain families know the elixir masters of the Imperial Academy of Elixirs, there is no chance of obtaining the 7th-level Imperial elixir. But what are the identities of the elixir masters of the Imperial Academy of Elixirs? The elixirs they prepare are usually only supplied to the royal family. Occasionally, some fish slip through the net, and they are not able to get them. Now, after learning that the Rainbow Tower in the Rondo province is going to auction 7th-level Imperial elixirs, and there are not only 7th-level low-grade elixirs, but also mid-grade and even high-grade elixirs, all the major families in the entire empire are crazy. On the day before the auction, the flow of people in the entire Yuling city had reached a terrifying amount. Suddenly, the hotels and inns in the entire Yuling city were full of passengers, leaving many people without a place to stay. He even lived in other cities in Yuling City. Yuling City is the provincial capital of Toronto, one of the most prosperous provinces in the empire. It is the economic center of the empire. How much passenger traffic can the hotels in Yuling City be full and unable to stay? This made lures and others, who had never had such experience before, very busy. At the same time, they were also worried about some situations that might occur at the auction. After all, Jason's request is to only accept materials of the 7th level or above, and who can produce these rare materials is not a famous family. As for the families that can produce 8th level materials, they are even more astonishingly large. Therefore, among the people who came to participate in the auction this time, the vast majority were the top forces in each province. Among these families, the weakest ones had 7th level Imperial spiritual masters in charge, and some powerful families even came. There are many 8th level Emperor spiritual masters, and some of them are even related to the Imperial royal family. This kind of auction can easily lead to trouble if there is not a strong person of sufficient level to take charge. When the time comes, so many powerful families and forces will cause trouble, not to mention the Rainbow Tower, even the Lord of Iolos and others will not be able to suppress it at all. After all, there are no less than 10 governors of various provinces. How can the Lord of Iolos suppress them? What to use to suppress it? Facing the anxious looks of the three lures, Jason's face looked a little calm. Don't worry, I know this auction well and there won't be any problems. A confident smile appeared on Jason's face. Although the three lures didn't understand where Jason's confidence came from, they were full of confidence in Jason, so they naturally stopped asking any more questions. By the way, President Jason, Lure said again, in addition to the issue of auction security, there are also some forces in the Empire that want to visit you. Among them, there are after that, lures. After taking out a list, it was time to read it out. Stop, 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 no need to read. Jason said 3 words in a row and waved his hand hurriedly. Lures, you can entertain those people. I won't meet them again. Since the Rainbow Tower, after word of the auction spread, there were too many families in the entire Empire who wanted to climb the Rainbow Tower. For Jason, having to meet with the members of these families one by one was more of a headache than anything else. Especially for those families, the main reason for meeting him was to get 1 or 2 bottles of Imperial elixir from Jason, so Jason didn't bother to have anything to do with them. For Jason, at the auction, you take out the elixir, I give you the elixir, and then everyone is happy. As for the relationship, Jason, who is devoted to practicing and studying elixirs, feels that it is not necessary at all. But, among these guests who want to see you, there are governors from several provinces in the Empire? President Jason, don't you want to see them too? Do you want to just meet them briefly? Lures raised his head and looked at Jason. In Lure's eyes, the governors of a province in the Empire were all powerful figures. Although the Rainbow Tower was prosperous, it was better to make friends with them. Forget it, you have to accept all these people and just say that I am practicing in seclusion and have no time. Jason waved his hand. Okay. Lures nodded helplessly. Mr. President, let's retreat first. Looking at the 3 people retiring, Jason stroked his head. Now, he only thinks about tomorrow's auction. It's over, let's go to the territory of chaos with Loken. We haven't seen each other for such a long time. I wonder how Archimedes and the others are doing? Is his father still practicing in seclusion in the Jintong Hall? Thinking of his father, Jason's lips couldn't help but outline. A smile appeared. What? Your Rainbow Tower is also a union affiliated to the Alchemist Tower, and we are also the presidents of the Alchemist King Guilds in the major provinces of the Salem Empire. Isn't it okay to even meet President Jason? This is simply unreasonable. Just don't block the 3 of you, otherwise we will jointly submit a letter to the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower to remove you from the Rainbow Tower. At this moment, a burst of noise suddenly came from outside the room door, and there was even a cry of pleading from the 3 lures who had left earlier. Jason's brows couldn't help but frown. He opened the door of the office and went out. At first glance, I saw the 3 lures standing in front of a large group of old men in the corridor outside. These old men, each with a dignified appearance, were walking in. The faces of the 3 lures were full of embarrassment. The look on his face kept blocking him. Lures, what's going on? At the door, Jason said coldly. However, before Lures could reply, the old men who saw Jason all squeezed away the 3 lures, with smiles on their faces, and walked towards Jay. Senior. Haha, President Jason, it's not easy to meet you. The leader was a gray-haired old man wearing an elixir robe. When he came to Jason, he laughed out loud. I remember Pachka back then. When the president was here, I often came to the Rainbow Tower as a guest. I didn't expect that Lures would stop me from seeing you, President Jason now. It took us a lot of effort to see you. It's really unfortunate. It's easy. After saying that, he wanted to pat Jason on the shoulder very kindly, but Jason dodged him. Behind him, a group of old men also laughed and echoed. Who is your excellency? Seeing the familiar tone of the other party, Jason couldn't help but frown. Haha, President Jason, you don't know me. I am Grant, the president of Bree Province's Elixir Medicine Union. I heard that President Jason is about to hold an elixir auction, so I came here to visit. The old man's face was full of smiles. Behind me are all the presidents of the Elixir Masters Union in other provinces of the Empire. President Jason, Old Man Quaid, and the president of the Elixir Masters Union in Norma Province. Behind Grant, many old men are also stand up and introduce. Master Jace, is that you? Suddenly, an exclamation came from the crowd, and an old man looked at Jason in astonishment. Jason looked up and saw a rather familiar old man looking at him in surprise, obviously not believing his eyes. Master Jace, I am Gemadou, the president of the Panacea Masters Guild of Doro Province. We met once at Master Elutiba's birthday party. Seeing some confusion on Jason's eyes, the old man immediately introduced himself. Is it you? Jason also remembered. A few years ago, when he attended the birthday party of Elutiba, the governor of Chiir province, this old man was also one of the many guests. He was with Daluo province. Mr. Mu, the provincial governor, came to attend Elutiba's birthday party. I didn't expect that President Jason of the Rainbow Tower would be you, the master. It really surprises me. Gemadou's face was filled with emotion. Master Jace? Grant, the leader, looked at Jason with a trace of doubt in his eyes, and then laughed. Gemadou, I didn't expect you to know President Jason a long time ago. That would be better. Let's talk about it after we enter the house. Let's talk in detail. With that, Grant took the lead and walked to Jason's office. Jason frowned and stopped in front of the other party. Everyone, I don't know what you are talking about when you come to me. I still have something to do. If there is nothing else, I will forgive you for not entertaining me more. It turns out that we are all in the Elixir Master Tower. The president of the Imperial Alchemist Guild was sent here. Jason shouldn't be like this, but the other party's character of rushing forward regardless of the master's opinion made Jason very unhappy. Haha, since President Jason has something to do, I won't nag him. When we come here this time, we do have something to discuss with President Jason. Grant looked at Jason and smiled. I heard that Jason the president brought back the formulas of several new types of super effective healing potions from the Alchemist Tower. We thought, since everyone is from the Alchemist Tower and works for the Alchemist Tower, we wonder if President Jason can use those few formulas. Give us the formula for a super effective healing potion. For a moment, everyone in the corridor focused their attention on Jason. The Rainbow Tower has been so popular in the past 3 months. The powerful effect of the super effective healing potion has caused a huge storm in the entire southern province of the Empire, causing many families and forces in the southern province of the Empire to abandon the original healing potions and purchase the super effective healing potions from the Rainbow Tower. Grant and several other presidents of the elixir unions in other provinces were jealous when they saw this scene. As the presidents of the provincial trade unions sent by the Alchemist Tower to the Salem Empire, they actually have achievements. If they do well, they can bring benefits to the Alchemist Tower, and they will be rewarded and appreciated by the Alchemist Tower. And if you perform poorly, you will be transferred. It's like Pochka, the previous president of Rainbow Tower, was transferred from the post of president of Rainbow Tower and sent to other areas just because he made Rainbow Tower gradually decline. Therefore, after seeing the crazy development of Rainbow Tower in recent months, the presidents of the elixir medicine unions from other provinces of the Empire took advantage of this elixir auction, and after discussing it, they immediately came to Rainbow Tower together. The purpose of the tower is to obtain the formula of super effective healing potion from Jason's hands. In fact, before this, Grant had already explored the formula of super effective therapeutic potions through various methods, but the most critical super effective water formula was mastered by Lures and 3 others. Faced with his use of both soft and hard tactics, Grant remained tight-lipped. Grant had no choice but to come to Jason's door. Super effective healing potion? Faced with the gazes of Grant and others, Jason smiled. If you are here for the super effective healing potion, then I'm sorry, this super effective healing potion comes from our Rainbow Tower. This is an exclusive secret that will not be shared with others. If there is nothing else, you can go back. Jason called Lures over. Lures, please entertain these presidents. For me. Several people Lures came to President Grant and was about to speak out, but was suddenly stopped by Grant. President Jason, we are all members of the Alchemist Tower. There is nothing that should not be spread to others, right? Grant stared at Jason. Haha. Jason smiled, but his eyes were a little cold. it's good that we are all members of the Medicine Master Tower, but there is no need to share all our own things, right? After knowing the purpose of Grant and the others, Jason didn't have a good impression of these people. He was just jealous after seeing the amazing effect of the super effective treatment potion. Jason had been prepared for such a situation. He had thought of it. Maybe the Salem Empire or some other forces would come to inquire and ask for it, but unexpectedly, the first one to come up would be the elixir unions from other provinces. It's good that everyone is a member of the Alchemist Tower, but the Alchemist Tower is a huge aggregation, in which each member represents their own interests, just like the Guras family and the Mori family are both families of the Salem Empire. Could it be that the Mori family can just ask for things from the Guras family? In fact, if it weren't for the fact that they were from the same school, and Grant's arrogant attitude, Jason would have kicked them out long ago. Jason's voice fell, and for a moment, the atmosphere on the scene was a little cold. President Jason, it seems unreasonable for you to do this. Grant looked at Jason with a cold tone. The formula of the super effective healing potion on your body was also obtained from the Elixir Tower. Now we are only focusing on our own development, and even wooing some forces from other provinces. Our hands are stretched too far. We are asking you for the formula of super effective healing potion. In order to be able to more effectively, a good development union will work for the Alchemist Tower, and we are not asking for it for free. As long as President Jason is willing to take out the formula, we are willing to pay a certain fee. President Grant talked eloquently and looked at it coldly. Jason came out again and said, "Furthermore, I heard that you poured all the 7th and 8th level materials you obtained from the Boulding family into your own pocket. If such a thing spreads to the Elixir Tower, no matter what, knowing what the Alchemist Tower would think, in order to find the formula for the super effective healing potion, President Grant even used threats." His eyes glanced at Grant, who had a somewhat cold expression, and Jason said indifferently, "President Grant's words are still there. It's really funny. Those forces voluntarily purchased the elixir from our Rainbow Tower. Can they still blame our Rainbow Tower? Moreover, the super effective healing potion is our own thing in the Rainbow Tower. If you want, you can research it yourself. Our Rainbow Tower will not spread it to outsiders. As for the materials, those materials were all won by me. Not only the materials of the Boulding family, but also all the high-level elixirs that I, Jason, will get at this elixir auction. If you have the ability, President Grant will also organize an auction of the elixir. As for your excellency, if you want to report it to the Elixir Tower, that is entirely your own business." After that, Jason looked coldly at the nearly 10 Elixir Master Union presidents from various provinces present. At this moment, one by one, "President Grant, before you came, you didn't tell us about asking President Jason for a super effective healing potion." Sensing Jason's gaze among the crowd, Gemma Duohui from the Doro Province Spiritual Pharmacist Union, the chief, suddenly stood up and spoke with a somewhat angry expression. "President Jason, I came to the Rainbow Tower today simply because I wanted to visit President Jason. As for what President Grant said about the super effective treatment potion for the car, I don't know about it. Since President Jason, I still have something else to do, so I won't interrupt you anymore, and I'll take my leave here." Immediately, President Gemadu spoke respectfully to Jason, then turned around and walked towards the outside of the Rainbow Tower. This move by Gemadu made Jason stunned. "Gemadu, don't you want the formula of that super effective healing potion?" President Grant said coldly to Gemadu. "Sorry, President Grant, although I am a little curious about the super effective healing potion in the Rainbow Tower, it is normal for President Jason to be reluctant to take it out. I will not report it to the Alchemist Tower because of this trivial matter." What? Originally, Gemadu followed Grant not for the super effective healing potion. Now that he saw that Jason was the original Master Jace, Gemadu, who admired Jason very much, immediately decided to part ways with Grant. "President Jason, I came to the Rainbow Tower, this time, purely to visit you, President Jason. Since President Jason has something to do, I will not bother you anymore and say goodbye." President Jason, with Gemadou taking the lead to speak out. 4 or 5 more presidents of the elixir unions from nearly 10 major provinces present came out and said goodbye to Jason. Although they are also very jealous of the super effective healing potion in the Rainbow Tower, they do not want to offend Jason for the super effective healing potion. Now President Grant is obviously competing with President Jason for the super effective healing potion. Of course, they are not willing to get involved. President Grant looked at the 4 or 5 people left around him and couldn't help but look a little angry. Humph, you all pretend to be noble and leave as long as you want. By then I have obtained the formula for the super effective healing potion, and you will never get it either. President Grant secretly said in his heart. Huh. Jason smiled at the door of the room. He was too lazy to argue with Grant and the others. After greeting the 3 lures, he immediately stepped into his office. Seeing Jason being so disrespectful, President Grant couldn't help but feel angry and groaned. He had no choice but to turn around and leave, but in his heart, he was thinking about how to get it from Jason. The formula of the super effective healing potion. President Jason, isn't it a little bad for us to offend President Grant and the others like this? President Grant is different from the presidents of the elixir unions in ordinary provinces. Like President Pachka, he is an 8th level, the low-level Emperor, Spiritual Master, and the 7th level low-level Elixir Master are said to have certain connections in the Elixir Alchemist Tower. If a few of them join forces and say bad things about you to the Elixir Alchemist Tower, then, in the office, the 3 lures stood respectfully in front of Jason and looked at Jason with some anxiety. It's just a few clowns, don't worry about them. Jason glanced at his mouth. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a rush of footsteps outside the door. A guard from the Rainbow Tower ran in panting, then knelt down on one knee in the room and said respectfully, President Jason, Prince of Tyria, Empire Alchemist Guild General Coulson Commander, Master Zymans, and Master Ballandane of the Imperial Medicine Academy are asking for an audience outside the door. What, Prince Tyria, President Coulson? The guard said 4 names in a row, and after each name fell, the 3 lures on the side couldn't help but stay for a moment. 4 names fell, the 3 of them stayed for 4 times in a row, and finally almost jumped up. Even Prince Tyria and the others were alarmed by this auction. Isn't this auction too sensational? The 3 lures looked at Jason with fear in their hearts. He is currently the governor of all the major provinces in the Empire and the major families in the Empire. The Rainbow Tower can no longer suppress the scene. If someone like Prince Tyria is added to the mix, if he is interested in some magical potion, Jason, can the president suppress it? Lures and the others couldn't help but look at Jason anxiously, wanting to see what the president's reaction would be. On the seat, a smile suddenly appeared on Jason's face. The boss is here, let's go, I'll take you to meet him. Jason stood up, smiled, and walked out of the office. Supporting people? Lures and the other 3 couldn't help but be stunned, not knowing why. Then they rushed out of the office one by one and quickly caught up with Jason. This Jason is too ignorant of praise. Although he brought this super effective healing potion from the Alchemist Tower, after all, we are all members of the Alchemist Tower. We refuse to ask him for a formula. It's true. In the lobby of the Rainbow Tower, Grant and others, who had eaten a lot of turtles from Jason, were walking and speaking angrily. President Grant, do we want to submit a letter to the Alchemist Tower? If the Rainbow Tower continues to grab them like this, all the families in our province will be won over by the Rainbow Tower. By then, the effectiveness of our union will be greatly reduced. One of the old men with a goatee said angrily. That is, if the Alchemist Tower transfers us to other positions due to efficiency reasons, especially to some weak kingdoms, then what we will get from the union every year will be greatly reduced. Another person, the old man, also suggested it. In the hall, Grant had a gloomy face. He was also thinking about how to drive Jason away from the Rainbow Tower, or to get the formula of the super effective healing potion from the Rainbow Tower. Just as he was thinking about it, his peripheral vision suddenly turned to the door of the hall, where he saw several people from Gemma who had left earlier, standing there respectfully, and in front of them, there was a figure. An old man wearing an ordinary elixir robe. It's actually him? Seeing this old man, Grant's heart skipped a beat and he hurried forward. Sir Coulson, I didn't expect it to be you. When did you come to Yuling City? Grant quickly came to the door and spoke respectfully. As the president of the National Alchemist Union, Coulson supervises them on behalf of the Alchemist Tower. It can be said that he is the direct leader of the provincial union presidents, which makes Grant disrespectful. Oh? It's Grant, and you, haha, what a coincidence? What's going on today? I see all the presidents of your southern province are here? After seeing Grant and others, Coulson reluctantly, he couldn't help but laugh. Haha, President Coulson, I'm so happy to see you, sir. Grant's face was full of smiles. Suddenly, his eyes rolled slightly, and an idea quietly floated in his mind, and he immediately came out. He said, Sir Coulson, there are so many of us here, mainly to meet President Jason. Oh? You just came out of Jason's place, how do you feel? Coulson said casually. Hey, Mr. Coulson, you don't know that President Jason is so annoying. Grant complained. What's going on? Coulson asked casually. After hearing Grant's words, his brows suddenly furrowed and he looked at him. On the side there were only a young man in his 20s and two old men who didn't pay much attention to Grant at first. At this time, their eyes suddenly fell on Grant, with surprise in their eyes. Sir Coulson, President Jason is so famous. You don't know that we have nearly 10 trade union presidents from various provinces just now jointly wanting to visit him. Unexpectedly, he refused to see him and even asked the Rainbow Director Lures of the tower stopped us and refused to let us in. It's really annoying. Oh, is there such a thing? President Coulson said calmly. That's natural. Grant said angrily, furthermore, I heard that after President Jason came to the Rainbow Tower, he obtained a large number of 7th level and even 8th level elixirs from the Boulding family. He poured it into his own pocket and used the resources of the Union to produce a large number of Imperial level elixirs. He enriched his own pockets and embezzled the properties of the Elixir Tower. It was really too much. President Grant said righteously at the door. In fact, Grant did not know where the materials used by Jason to prepare so many Imperial elixirs came from, but in his imagination, as a disciple of the Elixir Master Tower, Bing Gang was released from outside the Elixir Master Tower. Jason, how could there be so many materials in the Elixir Medicine Heaven? He must have gotten them from the medicine storehouse of the Rainbow Tower after coming to the Rondo province. You must know that although these people, as the presidents of the Elixir Medicine Unions in various provinces, have great power and can obtain a large amount of resources, these resources actually have to be handed over to the Elixir Medicine Master Tower. Just like the Rainbow Tower, as the Elixir Medicine Union of the province of London, it controls elixir treasures such as Shadow Valley. It can obtain many rare elixirs every year. For example, the Boulding family has hundreds of elixirs in the province of Toronto. In years, they have accumulated nearly 10 kinds of 8th level elixirs and dozens of 7th level elixirs. The Rainbow Tower has been in the province of London for an unknown amount of time, longer than the Boulding family, and the materials obtained are basically useless. Not under the Bouldings. But except for a small part of these elixirs that are still in the warehouse, the rest have all been handed over to the Elixir Master Tower. This is also the reason why Jason and the others can use their points to exchange for many materials after entering the Alchemist Tower. These materials are obtained from the alchemist guilds in various parts of the mainland from various empires, kingdoms, and principalities on the mainland. Transported to the Alchemist Tower. As the presidents of major trade unions, Jason and Grant are only equivalent to the professional managers of the Elixir Tower. They have the power to manage and operate, but they do not have the power to use these rare materials. Of course, this is not complete. Depending on the level and status, Grant and the others can still select some materials for their own use. They even have certain rights to use 7th level materials, but the quantity is not large. As for 8th level materials, they have certain rights. You can't take materials of higher level at all. If you really need it, you have to apply to the elixir tower and explain the purpose, but the probability of passing it is not high. Therefore, after learning that Jason had obtained several 8th level materials from the Bolding family and had so many imperial level elixirs, Grant's first thought was that Jason had violated the rules of the elixir tower and used them privately. Union materials. Now that Bingang had suffered a defeat at Jason's place, he was filled with resentment and immediately complained when he saw President Coulson. The penalty for such behavior of consuming the Union's belongings privately is extremely severe. Once verified, the lightest one will be suspension of employment. The most serious one, causing huge losses to the Union, may even be wiped out by the spiritual medicine tower. There are really too many unions established in the elixir tower across the mainland. Without a complete set of rules and regulations, rewards and punishments, it would be too troublesome to manage them, and they would not be able to shake down these low-level presidents. After telling President Coulson about Jason's crimes, President Grant couldn't help but reveal a cold smile at the door of the Rainbow Tower. Jason, if you don't disclose the formula of the super-effective healing potion to us, I don't believe that you, a core disciple, are going out for the first time in a rich place like the Rainbow Tower. Faced with so many rare, the material will not be moved, and when President Coulson checks it, I will let my friends in the Law Enforcement Hall and Management Hall of the Alchemist Tower have some information through my connections at that time. If there is even the slightest problem, you will be transferred. Rainbow Tower, without you, we will naturally be able to obtain the formula of the super-effective healing potion from Lures and the others. Thinking of the consequences that Jason is about to face, President Grant couldn't help but feel happy. Grant, where did you hear all this? Is this true? At the entrance of the Rainbow Tower, President Coulson looked at Grant coldly, and at the same time looked at the other Union members aside. Long. President Coulson, we came to the Rainbow Tower, this time just to visit President Jason. As for what President Coulson said, we don't know, but I personally believe that President Jason will not to do such a thing. Several people in Gemma felt President Coulson's gaze, and they all couldn't help but take a step back, looking at Grant with disbelief, and at the same time hurriedly spoke. They didn't expect that Grant would actually do something like report Jason for the formula of a super-effective healing potion. As the president of a provincial trade union, whoever is present does not more or less get some materials from his own union. This is the unspoken rule of these presidents. If we really want to investigate, no one will escape. In fact, the elixir master, Ta, also knows that as long as no one reports and does not go too far, medicine master, Ta, will always turn a blind eye. But Grant's behavior now clearly violates the unspoken rules in this regard. Even though Grant just said a few words to Coulson casually, the situation he reported to President Coulson was already equivalent to an internal report and was an extremely serious matter. President Coulson needs to verify it. It would be okay if it is not verified. Once it is verified, it will definitely be fatal for Jason. And Grant, the whistleblower, will not be safe. If the news of his report spreads, he will be despised by union presidents across the continent because he has broken the unspoken rules among major unions. How much hatred must there be to do this? Sir Coulson, what President Grant said is true. We have also heard about President Jason's personal enrichment. Sir, you must punish him severely. Different from Gemma Duoji. However, those union presidents who followed Grant all sided with Grant for their own benefit. Looking at President Coulson's cold face, they thought that President Coulson was angry because of Jason's behavior, and they felt secretly proud in their hearts. At this moment, there was a commotion in the Rainbow Tower. Immediately, Grant and the others saw Jason and 3 lures hurriedly walking from the hall. His face was full of smiles, and he seemed to be filled with joy and sorrow for President Coulson's visit. Hey, you can be proud now. When President Coulson asks about it later, just wait and cry. Grant and others secretly said viciously. Jason came to the door quickly, with a smile on his face. Under the astonished gazes of Grant and others, Jason did not come to see President Coulson first, but actually came to the door first to see the man who looked like he was only in his 20s. In front of young people of 20 years old. Haha, Your Highness Tyeria, didn't you say you were not free that day? Why didn't come here this time? It really surprised me. Jason laughed loudly. Originally I wasn't available, but then my father heard that it was Master Yu who organized the auction, so he asked me to come. What? Master, don't you welcome me? Tyeria also smiled. Welcome, can you not welcome him? Your Highness's arrival will make my rainbow tower shine brightly. It's too late for me to get excited. How could I not welcome him? Jason smiled. Immediately, his eyes fell on President Coulson beside him. President Coulson, could you please come from the imperial capital in person? As a subordinate, I am really scared. Jason said, pretending to be scared. Haha, you guy. Coulson shook his head and smiled. You are from my alchemist tower. To hold such a sensational auction, how can I, the president of the Imperial Alchemist Guild, not come? Master Simmons, Master Ballandaean, I'm sorry to bother you. With you two masters from the Imperial Academy of Spiritual Medicine masters in charge, my auction will be foolproof. Jason looked at Master Simmons again. And Master Ballandaean. Master Jason, what else can we say? It's an honor for us to participate in your auction, Master Jason. Master Simons and Master Ballandaean also joked. His Royal Highness Tyeria, Master Simons, Master Ballandaean, such as at the entrance of the Rainbow Tower, watching Jason and Coulson greet each other enthusiastically like old friends, Grant and others thought for a moment. Z was confused. As the presidents of the elixir unions in major provinces, although they have never met the fourth Prince Tyeria, the masters of the Elixir Academy Simons and Ballandaean, Grant and the others know their names. It's like thunder. More importantly, President Coulson and Jason talked like old friends. Didn't Jason come to the Rondo province and serve as the president of the Rainbow Tower for less than 5 months? When did you become so familiar with President Coulson, the Empire's Prince Tyeria, and Master Ballandaean? Although Jason has made a big name in the aristocratic circle of the imperial capital, because of his victory over Caswall, the first son of the Empire, he was regarded as a shame to the Empire by all the aristocrats of the imperial capital, which made his reputation in the Empire. It didn't spread very widely. Moreover, not many people knew about the personal relationship between Jason and Prince Tyeria, even in the aristocratic circles of the imperial capital. And the union that Grant and the others were in were located in the southernmost part of the empire, and the news about the imperial capital was not that great. If you are well informed, you will naturally know nothing. Jason, we were at this door earlier, but we heard President Grant's report against you. At the door of the Rainbow Tower, Prince Tyeria smiled and said to Jason, why, do you have a grudge against them? Grant and others' faces suddenly turned pale with fright. Although they were the union presidents of major provinces, they were not enough in front of Tyeria, the future quasi-emperor of the Salem Empire. Grudge? Jason looked at the pale Grant and others indifferently. There's no grudge. It's just that they asked me for the formula for a super-effective healing potion, but I didn't give it to them. Jason said with a smile. Oh, that's it. Prince Tyeria nodded. President Coulson, this matter is an internal private matter of your elixir tower, and I can't handle it. However, I believe that President Coulson you will handle it very fairly. After giving Grant and others a cold glance, President Coulson said loudly, Grant, and the rest of you, I will personally verify your report on the Rainbow Tower. However, once the auction is over, you will also report your financial income and expenditure during your tenure as president of the Panacea Master Guild, as well as a list of the incoming and outgoing materials has been prepared, and I have to verify it. The faces of Grant and others suddenly turned pale. They are simply shooting themselves in the foot. During the elixir union, which of them did not enrich themselves at all? As long as President Coulson wants to investigate, he will definitely investigate them one by one. Accurate. But Gemma Duo and several people on the side were covered in cold sweat, and their hearts were full of worries about the aftermath of the disaster. They were frightened, and they were not included in the Elixir Guild that President Coulson said he wanted to check before. That's right, Grant said bitterly. Okay, Prince Tyuria, President Coulson, Master Simmons, and Master Ballandain, you have come from afar, I will take you to rest first. Jason enthusiastically invited everyone to enter the Rainbow Tower. Okay, let's just visit your famous Rainbow Tower. Prince Tyuria laughed. Everyone immediately walked into the Rainbow Tower under the leadership of Jason. As for Grant and others who were pale, no one cared about them. The arrival of Prince Tyuria and the others, causing lures and others to panic. Especially the arrival of President Coulson, the biggest figure in the Alchemist Tower in the Salem Empire, made the supervisors of Lure's 3 Rainbow Towers even more frightened. In a world full of people, while they were anxious, the arrival of Prince Tyuria and others undoubtedly gave the 3 Lures a reassurance. It's no wonder that President Jason is so calm and composed when he is about to face so many big families in the Empire and the governors of various provinces. With Prince Tyuria and Master Zymons in charge, if there is anyone who is not long-term, if the Yen family and the provincial governor dare to cause trouble at the auction, they will definitely die. As time passed, the much-anticipated auction of the Imperial Elixir finally arrived in the eyes of countless people in Yuling City. The auction location is located at the Golden Lion Auction House, the largest auction house in Yuling City. The Golden Lion Auction House is not only the largest auction house in Yuling City, but also the largest auction house in the Rondo province. It is also the largest auction house in the entire southern part of the Salem Empire. It covers a huge area and is able to accommodate so many people from the empire. Families and forces from all over the world. Early in the morning, the entire Yuling City was on complete alert. All city guards in the entire Yuling City were on guard. There were people on duty at every street corner and in every alley to clear the carriages. From the beginning of the auction house, there was a dense flow of people pouring into it. At the entrance of the auction house were some Rainbow Tower guards arranged by rules, who stared at everyone who entered the auction house. The leader among them is none other than Jane, who is a 7th-level low-level Imperial Spiritual Master. Normally, with Jane's strength, it would be easy to be a guard commander, but in this auction that attracted countless large families in the Empire, and even governors of nearly 10 provinces, Jane's 7 the strength of a low-level person is inevitably a bit lacking. At the entrance of the auction house, powerful men with gorgeous clothes and amazing auras arrived one after another. These strong men are either middle-aged or old. They are all different, some are noble, some are cold, some are calm, some are flamboyant, but one thing is surprisingly consistent, that is, they are powerful. Even the servants who followed them were all unfathomable in the eyes of Jane and the others. This made Jane, who was a 7th-level low-level Imperial Spiritual Master, and the guards of the Rainbow Tower tremble in their hearts. However, despite this, there was no hint of timidity on Jane's face, and his sharp eyes were as sharp as an eagle. His eyes kept scanning everyone, leaving no one behind, and resolutely completed the tasks assigned to him by President Jason. Among the auction house guards arranged by the Rainbow Tower, the strongest one is actually a small 7th-level low-level Imperial Spiritual Master? It's really funny. What trouble is really going to happen? With such strength, I'm afraid he won't even be able to stop others for a second. You can't do it, can you? A young man in gorgeous clothes smiled coldly, and his words were spoken without hesitation so that Jane could hear them clearly. Sir, if the Rainbow Tower can be so short, it has suppressed the Boulding family from being a top force in the province of London to a second-rate force. I think it must have a certain strength, and their President Jason, he is extremely powerful, and this auction is also supported by Governor Iolos of the Rondo province. For fear that his young master would cause some trouble, the old servant on the side hurriedly spoke out. Okay, don't worry, I won't mess around, but this Rainbow Tower has spread this auction so well, I hope you won't disappoint me then. The young man smiled lightly and walked into the auction field. Scenes like this often happened at the door of the auction house. Faced with the doubtful and disdainful looks of these powerful figures from the empire, Jane could only smile bitterly in his heart. After all, with the strength of his 7th-level low-level imperial spiritual master, he was not enough in front of these provincial governors and the heads of major families. These big shots were all at least 8th-level low-level imperial spiritual masters. But although he was bitter, Jane was extremely reliable in his work. He did not slack off at all because of other people's noble status and strength. He strictly inspected and showed no signs of cowardice. Because behind him, there is the Rainbow Tower and President Jason. Therefore, no matter how powerful the opponent is, Jane is not afraid. Time passed slowly, and the auction time was getting closer and closer. As more and more guests entered the auction house, the spacious auction hall was gradually filled with people. The dark heads of people made it almost impossible to see the streets at a glance. The noisy noises gathered together and watched. That momentum was almost going to break through the ceiling. These guests are all nobles or wealthy businessmen from the province of London and surrounding provinces. As for ordinary people, there is absolutely no possibility of visiting them. The ticket fee alone is beyond what these common people can afford. In fact, this auction only sells 7th-level imperial elixirs, and the items exchanged can only be 7th-level elixir materials and above, including 7th-level elixir materials. Therefore, 90% of the people present are without competitive strength. Most of them spent a lot of money to obtain a ticket for the auction, just to witness the auction of the legendary imperial elixir. Of course, some people regard this auction as a place for socializing. After all, this auction has attracted governors from nearly 10 provinces in the southern part of the empire, and even dozens of top families with imperial spiritual masters. This is impossible to see in normal times. It can be said to be an unprecedented event that is rare in the Salem Empire in 100 years. Only the imperial elixir has such great appeal, attracting all these big shots. There is only one floor in the entire auction house. In the front of the auction house, there are some positions with excellent sightlines. Naturally, there are the prominent figures and power leaders from the empire. These power leaders occasionally talk to each other in low voices, and occasionally glance around, without knowing in their hearts what attention and thoughts are spinning. This area is where the forces that can really compete in this auction stay. The weakest families here are all those who have 7th-level imperial spiritual masters, and there are quite a few who have 8th-level emperors. The spiritual master has a distinguished status and gives people an unspeakable shock. Dang! In the noisy auction house, a clear bell suddenly rang. Under this bell, the noise in the auction house gradually weakened, and the eyes of the audience slowly focused on the auction stage. Under the gaze of everyone in the audience, Lure slowly walked out from the backstage, and then came to the center of the auction table. He looked at the dark forces in front of him and said loudly, "Thank you for your support today, Ruers, director of the Rainbow Tower. If there is any neglect in the elixir auction held today, I hope you will bear with me." The whole place was quiet, and on the auction stage, Lures felt countless spiritual consciousness sweep over his body in an instant. There are even some extremely powerful spiritual consciousnesses among them. Obviously, they are all trying to find out Lure's strength. Many people were present when they felt the 7th-level advanced strength of Lure's. The leaders of the force all sneered. Could it be that the Rainbow Tower arranged for Lure's to preside over the auction? A 7th-level high-level emperor spiritualist, if placed in an ordinary situation, can definitely be regarded as a powerful person who can suppress the enemy. However, among the powerful people at the 8th-level Emperor Spiritual Master level, there are many Emperor-level spiritual potion auctions. At the meeting, there was simply not enough to watch. Okay, stop talking nonsense and start the auction directly. Whispers kept ringing in the auction house. After feeling Lure's strength, a man in the VIP seat shouted a little impatiently. Hearing the shout, Lure's expression remained unchanged, and he continued, "Haha, everyone, I want to understand the rules of this auction. The auction items in this auction are all 7th level items without exception. Everyone knows about the rarity of imperial elixirs, so I won't introduce them in detail. Spiritual coins cannot be used to measure their value. Therefore, elixirs can only be exchanged for things. At that time, if anyone takes a fancy to the elixir in the auction, he can shout out the elixir materials he can come up with. Finally, the party that satisfies my rainbow tower the most can redeem their respective elixir on the spot." After hearing Lure's words, a sound of discussion immediately spread throughout the auction house, and even the leaders of the major forces in front were all whispering. So, whether you win the auction or not does not depend on the price of each elixir, but whether your rainbow tower is satisfied. How can this rule be fair? At this moment, a man said coldly at the VIP table. That's right, it's a normal auction, isn't it, measured based on the value of the materials each brings? What does it mean that if you are satisfied, you can buy the elixir? In this way, is it possible for one person to take the elixir? He gave you 7th level materials, and another person brought out 8th level materials. The one who brought out 7th level materials satisfied you, but the elixir was auctioned away by him? Yes, if that's really the case, then let's auction it. Where is the fairness? Who knows what materials will satisfy your rainbow tower and what materials you are not satisfied with? Seeing this man, there was a burst of noise in the entire auction house, which caused a lot of echoes. Voice. This man is Pfeiffer, the patriarch of the Gaddafi family in the Buma province of the empire. The Gaddafi family is the leading family in the Buma province, and this Pfeiffer is also an 8th level intermediate imperial spiritual master with great strength. Extraordinary. The Buma province can only be considered medium among the many provinces in the empire, and the power of the Gaddafi family is slightly inferior to that of the Bolden family, which used to be one of the major forces in the Rondo province. But this is only in the family industry. After all, the province of Rondo has the resources of the Unluo Mountains that other provinces in the empire do not have. In terms of strength, Patriarch Pfeiffer's 8th level intermediate emperor spiritual master is stronger than Bor. The leader of the Ding family, Mo Sibin, is much stronger. Therefore, as one of the 10 most powerful people among the countless leaders of the forces present, the Pfeiffer clan's long words aroused a lot of echoes. It is really the Rainbow Tower spirit in recent months. Being too powerful has also made some forces and families quite jealous and dissatisfied. Even some people in the back row, who had no chance of participating in the auction, were shouting at this moment to avoid chaos. They are not qualified to participate in the auction anyway, so they might as well join in the fun by shouting. Faced with the provocative words of Patriarch Pfeiffer and the noisy shouts from all over the place, Lure's eyes slowly swept across the entire auction room on the auction stage, and finally landed on Patriarch Pfeiffer. Everyone, this auction of imperial elixirs is held by our Rainbow Tower. The rules are naturally set by our Rainbow Tower. If Patriarch Pfeiffer or anyone else present sets the rules for our Rainbow Tower, if you are not satisfied, you can turn around and leave immediately and not participate in the auction held by our Rainbow Tower. Our Rainbow Tower will never hinder you. Lure's face was calm, without any fluctuation. The loud voice echoed throughout the auction room. Lure's strong words immediately caused an uproar in the auction house, but no one stood up. This guy. A cold light flashed in Patriarch Pfeiffer's eyes. Under everyone's gaze, he said nothing. The attraction of the 7th level Imperial elixir was too great. Although he was attracted to Rainbow, he is not satisfied with the rules of the tower, but he would not be willing to not participate in the auction for this reason. Since no one has any objections, then, before the auction, let me introduce to you some of the people who came from afar. Guests attending our Rainbow Tower auction. On the auction stage, Lures smiled. What guest? Without further ado, let's start the auction. As soon as Lures finished speaking, Patriarch Pfeiffer shouted again. He had already observed that nearly 10 governors of major provinces who participated in the auction were all sitting in the VIP seats, and the patriarchs of each family are all absent. Even the Lord of Iolo's city in the Rondo province and the leaders of several other major forces are sitting in their own seats. Pfeiffer can't think of the Rainbow Tower. What guests can there be? Faced with the clamor of Patriarch Pfeiffer, Lures' smiling face immediately couldn't help but sink. Clan Pfeiffer, if you continue to make random noises and make trouble, don't blame our Rainbow Tower for depriving you of your qualifications for this auction. Expelled from the auction house. Lures' tone was extremely stern, not at all softened by the fact that the other party was the patriarch of a large family. That tough tone made everyone present feel suffocated. This Lures is too awesome. Although today is the auction held by the Rainbow Tower, he is only a supervisor of the Rainbow Tower, and his strength is only a 7th level senior imperial spiritual master. In front of everyone, he scolded the patriarch of a big family. What was even more exaggerated was that the patriarch of this big family was an 8th level intermediate emperor spiritual master. He could obliterate his existence with just a few moves, which shocked everyone. You. At the VIP table, Patriarch Pfeiffer said coldly. He stood up suddenly, and powerful energy was released from his body. A small 7th level senior imperial spiritual master dared to scold him like this in public, which made Patriarch Pfeiffer very embarrassed and angry. Clan Chief Pfeiffer, take part in the auction well. However, before Pfeiffer could speak, the Lord of Iolo's frowned at the VIP table. Chief Pfeiffer, are you going to let us participate in the auction if you are making such a fuss? If you don't want to participate in the auction, just leave quickly and don't affect us. Director Lures, please continue. In addition to the Lord of Iolo's, there were several people at the VIP table at the front who also yelled. Who? Patriarch Pfeiffer looked at him unhappily, but suddenly stopped talking, because the people who had spoken before were Arudaba, the governor of Chi'er province, Mr. Mu, the governor of Daluo province, and Luan President Mike Ham, the leader of the Adventurers Guild in many provinces. These three people, Aludiba and Mr. Mu, are both 8th level intermediate imperial spiritual masters and governors of a province with extremely high status. President Makham of the Adventurers Guild is only an 8th level low-level imperial spiritual master. He is a spiritual master, but in terms of status, he is not much worse than him. For a moment, Patriarch Pfeiffer couldn't even explode, or even if he didn't. On the auction stage, Lures directly ignored Patriarch Pfeiffer who was standing there. A smile appeared on his face, and he shouted, "Now, let us welcome the first guest of our Rainbow Tower auction, that is, Master Simons of the Imperial Academy of Spiritual Medicine." As Lures finished speaking, Simons immediately walked out from the backstage of the auction house, then went directly to the guest seat arranged by the auction house and sat down directly. Master Simons, it's Simons. Master C. It's really him. Did you see the middle-aged man following him? That was Lord Streep of the Imperial Academy of Spiritual Medicine, an 8th level senior imperial spiritualist, and the guardian of Master Simons. The appearance of Simons made the entire auction house go crazy. The governors of the major provinces and the patriarchs of various families in the VIP seats all nodded to Master Simons with smiles on their faces. At the same time, I was shocked and didn't understand why Master Simons came to the auction held by the Rainbow Tower as a guest. Who is Master Simons? Master of the Imperial Medicine Academy, 8th level intermediate city spiritualist, 7th level senior spiritualist Master Yao Huang. What kind of identity and status does this have? You must know that among the countless guests present, the most powerful ones are Olive, the governor of the twin provinces of the empire, and Baru of the Toddy family, the most prominent family in the southern part of the empire. Chief Chi, both of them are 8th level senior imperial spiritual masters. but what about Master Simmons? Just a follower around him, Streep, is an 8th level senior imperial, spiritual master. This shows that the strength is powerful. Seeing the appearance of Master Simmons, Patriarch Pfeiffer, who was standing there at the VIP table with a face full of anger and embarrassment, was stunned, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Now, let us invite the second guest, that is, Master Ba Lian Ding Yu, who came from the Imperial Medicine Academy with Master Simons. On the auction stage, amidst the discussion of countless people, Luers's the voice became louder, covering everyone. As Rules finished speaking, Balandayan also walked out of the backstage, came to Simmons' side with a smile on his face, and then sat down. What, Master Balandayan? Why is he here? If the appearance of Master Simons only surprised the Lord of Iolos and the others, then the appearance of Master Ba Lian Ding made the Lords of Iolos completely confused. After all, Master Simons not long ago, there was a spiritual medicine duel with Jason, which led to the two getting acquainted, but when did Master Ba Lian Ding have something to do with the Rainbow Tower? The appearance of Master Ba Lian Ding also won a burst of cheers. Luers's face was full of smiles. Today's third guest is the highest person in our elixir tower in the Empire, that is, the president of the Empire's Elixir Guild, President Curson. Wow! The entire auction house was boiling. President Coulson, everyone murmured, with crazy eyes. Although Coulson is not the elixir master of the Salem Empire, he is an 8th level elixir emperor? An 8th level elixir master? What kind of identity is the Imperial Medicine Master? Looking at the entire Salem Empire, there are no more than 5 fingers of 8th level spiritual medicine Emperor Masters. It is well known to all the people in the Empire that they are the members of the Imperial Medicine Master Academy. The 2 faint deans are both 8th level low-level elixir Emperor Masters. Such a figure, no matter which force he belongs to or where he comes from, deserves everyone's respect. Finally, Luers's voice became louder again. Let all of us here stand up to greet this guest. I was very surprised when I found out about his arrival, and I was also very pleasantly surprised. Luers paused deliberately, and everyone attending the auction fell silent. After President Coulson, there is a 4th guest, and everyone needs to stand up to greet him. Who could this person be? Because of the shock brought by the 3 people before, all the people present stood up. Even in the VIP seats, many provincial governors and power leaders stood up, but there were also a few who sat there peacefully. I don't think that the 4th person needs to stand up to greet him. This 4th guest is the 4th prince of our Salem Empire, the Empire's only tiger-blooded spiritual master, the pride of the Empire, His Royal Highness Prince Tyeria. Luers's high-pitched voice rang out in the quiet auction room. Thorough, reverberating.